Hi folks, today I'm going to show you a quick way to reload the 223 Remington. I'm going to take you through step by step from beginning to end, and I'm just going to reload one bullet, so we're not going to reload all 20, turn this into an hour video. I'm going to keep it nice and short. So the very first step is the tumbler over here. I've already pulled them out of the tumbler, but this is the tumbler I use. It's a Lyman. You just put them all in here, put the lid on, screw the nut down, and then plug it in. It vibrates. This is a crushed walnut media. I actually like the corncob media better. It's a little bit cleaner, but this does a good job too, cleaning the cases. As you can see, does a good job with them. Makes them nice and shiny. There's two reasons I clean all my cases before I reload them. One is it's a lot easier on your dies over here. A dirty case can be hard on your dies, so if you want your dies to last a long time, I recommend you cleaning the cases before you run them into your dies. Number two is you can inspect them a lot better when they're cleaner and they don't have any you can check them for cracks, any discrepancies in them, bulges in the case. It's a lot easier to check for things that go wrong when they're cleaner than when they're dirty. So that's the first step. Now the second step, you take your case lube pad. I've still got some lube on here. This is the lube I use. Case resizing lubricant. I just put it on the pad here. I've already got some on, so I'm not going to do it, but if it's brand new and you're using this same kit that I am, this is what you do. You just put the smaller brush. There'll be a larger brush in the kit for the larger rifles. I'm going to be using the smaller one. So I just roll it on the pad like this. I take our case. I'll make sure I lube the inside of the neck. Okay. Then I take the case and roll it. Roll it on the pad like that, so it's ready to go in. You got to lube them on the rifles. You have to lube them. The pistols you don't if you're using a carbide die, but if you're using steel sizer dies, you have to lube your cases. If not, you'll get your case stuck in the sizer. So the next step, I'll just leave that sitting there for now. I'm going to take the sizer die. It's not set, so I'm going to show you how to set the sizer die here. Okay, we're just going to set our sizer die now. All you do, it's a piece of cake. You have the shell holder number 10 for a 223. It also says it right there on the box, if in case you're wondering what one it is. Shell holder number 10. You're going to run the ram all the way to the top. Let the handle go all the way down. You're going to screw in the sizer die until it comes in contact with the top of the shell holder. I'm going to back up that nut so I can keep going on it. Okay, now I've made contact with it. What you're going to want to do is back it up just a little bit. And then go ahead and take your sizer and give it about a quarter, maybe a half of a turn is what you're going to want to do. And that way it gives good contact. You want that pop. I've got too much there, so I'm going to back it up just a little bit. See how there's that break in the handle at the bottom? You want that pop on it. On a steel sizer die. On a carbide, you're not going to want that, but I'll explain that later. So then if that's the contact that I want, I'm going to put my large lock nut down against the press. Right there is where I need it to be. Then I'm going to go ahead and tighten with an Allen wrench. And our sizer die is set. So that's all we need to do for the sizer die. Just tighten that up. And our sizer die is good to go. So, on to the next step. Okay, now I'm going to take the lubed case, after my sizer die is all the way down in, take the lubed case, slide it into the shell holder, run it all the way, knocks out the primer, I bring it back. What that does is resizes the case back to its factory dimensions after it's been fired. And it also prepares that neck there for a bullet. So now that I got the lube all over the case, I take my rag and wipe it off, then I can finish prepping the case. Okay, now after I've wiped all the sizing lube off of the case and got it all dry, primer pocket is dirty. It always is after you shoot them because of all the gas from the primer. So I'm going to take my primer pocket cleaner, and just scrub that out real good. Just makes it nice and clean in there for the brand new primer when that step comes. But I'm going to immediately go into trimming because this case is not the length we want. Now when you're reloading cases, especially factory, you're going to want to trim the cases, and I'm going to show you on a website here on that in a book. Anyway, either website or a book, I'll show you what the dimensions are for this case so we can trim them. Okay, now you'll see right here in the book 223 Remington, okay? Max case length 1.760, trim to 1.750. Okay, so that means every time you trim a case, or every time you resize a case, what happens is the sizing die pulls up on that brass and it will lengthen the brass. You're going to want to trim it because if that case gets too long, when you go to chamber that round, the top of that case, that mouth there, can actually go into your rifling if the case is too long. That's the reason you're going to want to trim them. So they recommend you trim it at 1.750. This one is factory brass. I only shot it one time, so after resizing it only once, as you can see, it's not quite to max length, but it's only 3/1000ths off. So we want to be, it's at about 1.756. We want to go 1.750. So the next step is to put it in our trimmer here. This is a shell holder number 10, kind of the same thing. It's this, every case has a different shell holder. And this is pretty easy. I've already got it set up because this is the last time I trimmed. I was doing 223s. But it's real easy. If you're starting from scratch, these move back and forth, and you use an Allen wrench on both of them. You got a small one and a big turret here. You're going to want to put that's also a pilot. 22 pilot. You can see all these different pilots we have for different calibers, 30, 44, 45, 35, 270. Anyway, I've got the 22 in there. You'll throw it all the way into where the cutters just touch the mouth, and then you'll adjust this turret right here counterclockwise until you get the length you want. Don't go too crazy on it because it only needs a quarter of a turn at a time. You're not going to be taking a whole lot off there. We're talking just a little bit. So I've already set this one. So I'm going to do is just hold it steady over here and go ahead and trim. See how it's just trimming the case mouth there. I'm going to take it out of there and measure it. And we're at 1.750. Perfect. So now on to our next. Okay, now after you trim, you're going to see how you got that cut. It's really rough right here. I'm pulling up on it. It's really rough. The inside's real rough because it just, the cutter just cut it. So what we're going to do is call it chamfering and deburring. And all we're going to do is burr that edge with this little chamfer tool here until we have a smooth edge there. You don't want to go too crazy either because you can also go down. If you go too crazy on one of these, you can affect your overall length. You want to keep it at 1.750, but all of that outside is gone now. Now I'm going to go to the inside. I'm going to deburr. You can see all those little shavings coming off of there. You don't want those sharp shavings on when you seat your bullet because I've seen them even take the jackets off of some of the bullets, or the lead. It'll scrape them if it's that sharp. So that looks good there. You could just go to where you can't feel. I've got an electric one of these. I just wanted to just show you in case you don't have an electric one. This is kind of the old-fashioned way to do it. But I don't feel any more burrs in there. It feels pretty good and pretty smooth. So that's ready for a bullet now after some powder. So let's move to the priming next. Okay, the next step here is the priming. Now I've got a hand priming tool from RCBS. This is the best way to do it. The way that they had you do it with the press on the factory RCBS, I didn't like it. So just buy one of these. RCBS, I think Lyman makes one. There's other makers that make them, but just unscrew that. Now it's got a small and a large. This is for large rifle, small. So it has a little S on it. Put your shell holder right there. Slide that in. Small rod, beveled edge goes down, flat edge comes up. Slide that in. Put your arm back in, screw it back in. That's good to go. Now what we're going to do is put our primers, small rifle primers. These are CCIs. You can use Remington, Winchester, Federal, don't matter. What I'm going to do, don't touch the primers because the grease on your hands can corrode the primers. Just keep your fingers off of them. Put the plastic back up on the top, close it, slide that in there just like that. Now the primers are good to go. We're just ready for our case now. Slide the case in just like that. Release the gate. The primer slides down in. All you do is squeeze with your hand, and that's it. Now that case is primed. Now, pull this one back out here. Set aside. Some guys like a flush primer. Some guys like them, you know, deep. You know, not too deep, but you know, a couple thousandths down in. It doesn't matter. You just do it by your feel. You'll get the feel of it. After a while, you'll get the feel. You just want to make sure it's in there tight enough. If it's not, if you don't get in there tight enough, you can't get it back out of the shell. It won't come back out because the primer's stuck. It's not going to let it come back out. So just a good firm squeeze on that. That primer's sunk good. I'm looking at it from the side. I can't see the primer sticking up. That primer's in where it needs to be. So let's go on to our next step. Okay, the next step is to powder charge this case. Now, the powder I'm going to go with is Hodgdon 335. I like Hodgdon 335 for the 223. It's a good powder for medium-sized cases. There's a lot of different powders you can use. I know everybody's got their favorite. That might not be your favorite, but that's the powder we're going to go with. This scale is an electric scale. If you want me to do a different tutorial on this at another time, I can. If you've got the old-fashioned scale, the 505, I think it was. I don't have it anymore. I gave it away. Then you probably know how to use that. Either way, today we're going to go with 24 grains. So 24 is starting out, and the max is 26. I just got on Nosler's website. I don't have a Nosler book since we're going to be using the Nosler ballistic tip. 50 grain. It's right here. I just got on Nosler's website and looked at the load data for the 223. It said starting grout with the Hodgdon 335 is 24 grains, max is 26. But it does say that the most accurate load is 24 grains. So I'm just going to go with 24 grains. And that's it. Go from there. So what we do is put 24.0, enter, dispense. That'll dispense 24 grains. Sometimes the first load throws it off a little bit. Sometimes it's right on, depending on the powder. So we'll see what it does here. .24 grains, perfect. That's cartridge number one. I'm going to go ahead and grab my funnel, put it on top of the case. Take my 24 grains of powder. I like to tap it just to make sure everything's falling down. Because I set that back on there, it'll go ahead and count down and it'll throw out the next case. Which in this case we're not going to load the next one, but nice scale, really nice scale. So now, next case is seating our bullet. I need to get my shell holder back to put it on here. Get rid of this, put our cedar die on, and that'll be the last stage of our process. Okay, we're going to put our cedar die in. Now, I've already got this set. If you want me to go through a tutorial on how to set this cedar die, maybe a little bit different than the RCBS instructions give you, let me know. I'd be glad to do that on another one. I just didn't want to do it on this one because I want to keep the video short. So it's already set. If you need help with this, let me know, and I'll make another video just strictly on how to set a cedar die. So we've got our powder charged case. We're going to slide into our shell holder. We're going to take the bullet and just place the bullet right on top of the case, but you got to hold it into place while you run it up into the die and let go of it obviously when it slides up in there, and go all the way down to the bottom. And that puts the bullet right into the case. Let's see if it's the overall cartridge length that we want. Every bullet, that's perfect. We want it, what, 2.260 is what the book was calling for with this bullet, 50 grain Nosler ballistic tip. 2.260, and we are right there. Perfect. So every bullet has a different cartridge length. Once you go to 40 grain, 60 grain, 77 grain, you got to check in the book to see what the overall max cartridge length is going to be. Because if it's too long, then they're going to have a hard time chambering. It's going to run into your rifling. So that's the perfect length we want for this case, and that's all. This case is ready to be fired. So that's it, folks. Thanks for watching.